Guess what, guys? I'm back, and I've got a game for you. It's fresh. I wouldn't call it new, because it's definitely not new, but it is one in a series that I've already played, and if you haven't figured it out already, it's Banjo-Tooie. It's about time, right? So I played the first game a while back, kind of finished it, considering that I ended up screwing up the ending and the recording never got saved and whatever. Hopefully this one goes a little bit smoother. So let's go ahead and get started. This is actually the first game in the series that I played. I played this one before I played the original Banjo-Kazooie. I've got a fresh save file. Let's go ahead and get jumping in right here. We're just going to focus on the one player. We're not going to do the multiplayer stuff in this Let's Play. So, it's been, let me think. I want to say that it says it's been 2 years since, 2 years since Grunty was defeated in the end of Banjo-Kazooie. And basically nothing's happened since then, except for Tootie, Banjo's sister from the first game, basically disappeared and nobody cares about her anymore. And Grunty is still trapped under that rock. And you remember from Banjo-Kazooie that there was a man named Klungo who was loyal to Grunty even though you never actually saw him. Well, there he is, so he's back again. Now this game does something interesting. The first game was basically just a retread of the standard Save the Princess plot that was in a lot of like other platformers like Mario and things like that. This game changes it up a little bit, and we'll see that as the cutscene ends up playing out. So yeah. Now let's be reintroduced to our heroes. This is Banjo and Kazooie's house. A little changed from the first game, but Banjo and Kazooie have their pals Mumbo, who has been retooled so that he looks a little bit cuter, I guess you could say. His mask is more expressive now. And Bottles is here too, and I guess they're playing poker for money, which is odd because you almost never see actual money in these games. And in other news, Kazooie is still a jerk and a cheater. And if you're wondering why the resolution on this game looks so bad and the frame rate seems to be running a little slow, that's because this is the original N64 version, not the Xbox version that's been released since then. So everything seems to be status quo. I mean, the heroes are still alive and around, even though they're not actually doing anything except playing cards. And Grunty is stuck in under that boulder, so I don't think she's going anywhere. Of course, this is a game that kind of shakes up the status quo a little bit, so let's introduce ourselves to a couple of new villains. This game really pushed the N64 to what it could actually do, which is why an Xbox version kind of makes sense. Because a lot of this game suffers from bad frame rates and the resolution isn't that great. The textures are kind of meh. But it's still a good game. I still think it's one of the best games on the N64. So yeah, this game has got a lot. The writing is pretty good. It's not quite as snappy as the first game, but it's definitely more, I guess I call it cynical. It's much more willing to make fun of itself and to make fun of the other tropes of the genre, you could say. And that's what that's what I mean when I say it plays with the formula. It changes a lot of the standard platformer, oh, we gotta go through these levels to save X and then defeat the final boss at the end. And it changes the way that the story works, and because of that, it changes the way that the actual game itself works a little bit. Though the formula itself, the basic go to each level and get Y so you can beat X at the end, hasn't changed. So these are Grunty's sisters, who obviously weren't in the first game. And they're playing to the standard Abbott and Costello trope of fat and skinny. Though they really honestly don't get all that much humor. They're just kind of there. And they speak kind of Yoda-ish, where they put the verbs at the end of the sentences instead of in the middle. Or is that how that works? I'm not sure. They put part of the sentence at the end. I don't remember if it's the verb or the. Now I'm gonna be thinking about that and it's gonna bug me.
Up, go, and yo, up, yo, go.
And you notice that a lot of the models for the characters seem a little cleaned up and tinkered with. They're a little bit more expressive in this game than they were in the first game. Honestly, though, from what I can tell, a lot of the first game's models are just reused in this game. They just tinkered with them. The one that's changed the most, I think, is actually Mumbo. Because they changed... in the first game, he was just kind of a shaman who was there. He wasn't actually... He didn't actually do much. In this game, he has a much bigger role, because I guess the dev team must have liked him, and they must have realized that the fans liked him, too. Now, I guess they kind of... Well, no, I guess they're just using a spell there. That's why they spoke in rhymes. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what part of speech they put at the end of the sentences instead of having them in the middle. Oh yeah, and the world's least attractive underwear shot. This game plays with the fan disservice a lot, especially considering the fact that Grunty is now completely a skeleton, because she's been under the ground for so long that her body's completely decayed. And her eye fell out. Yeah, this game did that joke way before Pirates of the Caribbean did. Oh, and no points for spotting the incredibly obvious Mumbo in the back there. Oh, and up doesn't rhyme with whoop. Oh, and this is another running gag in the game, is that Mumbo isn't that fast. Though Hassle and Castle is a pretty nice rhyme. I don't recall having heard that one before. So yeah, this is, you can tell the frame rate on the N64. This is one scene right here where it's like running at what, 2 frames a second? That's pretty bad. So they're still playing cards even though Mumbo's not even here. Presumably Kazooie just took all of Mumbo's chips. Again, frame rate drops in absentia. I have my N64 propped up next to me, and I can actually, this is the one game, well, one of the few games that I can actually hear it start to chug a little bit when it's trying to render something. So this is the basic, you know, boy who cried wolf. Bottles assumes that they're trying to fool him again, and of course he just sits right there at the table and takes the full force of Grunty's spell right to the face. Though how Grunty manages to fit through that portal into the machine, I'm not sure. I guess it must be just big enough to fit her, but... So this is a way that the game kind of... I'll show you once we actually get loaded back into the game here, but... This is Spiral Mountain area, the hub area of the last game that you didn't spend a whole lot of time in. You spent more time in Grunty's actual lair, but... Oh, and they leave without Klungo. Again, Klungo's one of those side characters that the dev team must have liked because he has a so much bigger role in this game than he does in the first game. In the first game, he was in 2 cutscenes, I think. In this game, he's in a lot more. So this is the next morning, presumably. You can kind of hear some of the same synths that they used in Donkey Kong 64 in the music in this part. Especially in Fungi Forest. So apparently the blast knocked all 3 of these guys out. But they're all alive, at least. Right? Yeah, no. Where's Bottles? Yep. He never got out of the house, so... That's how you open up a sequel to a cheerful kitty platformer, guys. Kill off one of the main characters. Because Bottles is dead. So basically that turns this whole game from a Save the Princess plot into a revenge plot. Where the entire purpose of the game becomes taking Grunty down for killing Bottles. Mumbo even says so. Now, of course, the quest does change a little bit as we meet more characters in the introduction here, but yeah, Banjo's right. This game is much more complicated, just structure-wise, than the first game was. The first game was very much a standard platformer. This game is not. So welcome back to Spiral Mountain. You can see that things have been changed a lot since the last game. You can even hang around here and talk to Bottles, and he'll tell us stuff. But, yeah. Oh yeah, and under this boulder, that goldfish who was in the bowl in Banjo's house in the first game ended up, under this, so we're gonna have to get him out of there, but we can't do it yet. That's gonna be a theme of this game. They kind of show you right at the beginning that you can't do everything the first time you go to a place. Look at Spiral Mountain. The place is completely trashed. The witch's minions have been busy. And Klungo's still here, but he knows that they're going to have to follow them, to try to follow the witches, so he's going to wait for us in the tunnel, and we'll have to go and meet him later. So yeah, if we wanted to get a re-tutorial on all of the last game's moves, we can just wander around, find all of Bottle's old molehills, and he'd be able to teach us all the moves again. So things like the speedy step shoes and the boots, those are all still here. You can see the honeycombs from the first game are obviously still around, as is the backflip. The thing about the honeycombs in this game, though, is that, unlike the first game, unless you find honeycombs just lying around in the world, they will disappear. Most of the things in this game actually disappear, whereas the first game had, if you, say, kill an enemy, like this guy right here, he wouldn't come back unless I left the area and came back later. In this game, he actually will come back at some point. So we could go in the water, but there's nothing under there for us except for that rock way under the waterfall with Kazooie's face on it, which again, we can't do anything about at the moment. There's a spring jump pad up here. Let's go ahead and do this. So, and what's this up here? It's a piece of paper. Let's grab it. This is one of the many collectibles you can get in the game. This is one of Cheeto's pages. Because, if you remember Cheeto helping us in the last game, so did Grunty. So Grunty, at some point last night, it's never really clear when, came back to her lair and tore Cheeto apart and then scattered the pages throughout most of the world. And all the other worlds we're going to be visiting, somehow. And that's an early cameo by a character we're going to be seeing a lot of later on. Now, to get back up to the witch's lair, we could go up Spiral Mountain itself, but it's easier just to come over here to the bridge, or what's left of it, and climb it. Let's go ahead and in here. So this is what's left of Grunty's lair. You can hear they even play the original music while you're in here. and Cheeto's theme when you get close to him. So Cheeto will help us, just like he did in the first game. The problem is that he doesn't have any spells left because Grunty ripped out the pages. So we have to find the pages that she tore, and every 5 pages we get back to him, he'll give us a cheat again. Yeah, we know we'll have to find more. Of course, Kazooie wants to cheat. So you can also see that they changed the way that the items work in this game. Whereas in the first game, you had to collect all the items in singles. In this game, you can actually collect them in bunches. So you can grab feathers, I believe it's 20 at a time, and you can collect gold feathers as well. That is what, 2 at a time? Yeah, 2 at a time, instead of just doing them singly. And you can also see we can collect eggs as well. I believe those are 20 at a time too. So just collecting those 4 bunches gave us 80 eggs right off the bat. How long do you think it would take us to get 80 eggs in the first game? A very long time. So let's kind of grab some feathers, because I figure we're going to need them at some point. I used to think that you could actually get to some of the levels while you were in here, but no, you can't. Because when I originally played this game, I played this game first. I had no idea that that was actually part of the first game. So there's a flying pad here, just like there was in the first game. You can fly up to the top. Well, I don't think actually these were in the first game, but you can fly up to the top of Spiral Mountain and kind of go around. You can see now there are some caves, like this one back here, that looks like you can go into, but we actually can't, again, until much later. You can see that Grunty's eye has been taken out, but yeah, basically if Banjo and Kazooie didn't trash things before, they've been trashed even more now, because I'm assuming that the witch's lair was probably trashed before Grunty got out, but Cheeto himself probably wasn't trashed. Can't remember if we can do this yet. I don't think we can. Okay, so there's a cave there that again has something in it, but we can't actually do anything about it until later, because surprise, surprise, even though we have all of our moves from the first game still, except for one move that's been changed, thankfully. You remember the stationary B attack in the first game was a claw swipe that was kind of awkward and had Banjo stumble forward a few steps. In this game, they changed it to a rat-a-tat tap, I believe it's called, which is a nice little attack that helps Kazooie peck enemies in the face, and it's actually fairly powerful. But anyway, let's go into the digger tunnel here. Go ahead and use the Talon Trot just like in the first game to travel faster, and Klungo's waiting for us in here. This is our first boss fight, believe it or not. We fight a boss in this game before we actually get to a level, and that's what I mean about the game playing with the formula. This game assumes that you've played the first game, and if you haven't played the first game, you know, you really should, because you have to start right off the bat with a boss who will challenge your basic skills at playing this game. So basically, Banjo and Kazooie don't remember him because they never actually met this guy. So, but Klungo's really loyal to Grunty at this point, and, well, he's also a scientist, so he's got a potion he's going to drink that actually has a random effect. He splits off, but you can kind of tell which one's the real one because he's a little bit brighter. And then he puts up a shield that we can't hurt him while he's doing, and now he's gonna throw potions at us. But all we have to do to avoid that is run in a circle. Believe it or not, this boss fight was really hard when I first got this game, just because... Oops. Just because, again, I hadn't played the first game, so I had no idea what the controls were, and you have to kind of figure that out before you do anything else. So, if you just run into Klungo, or any of the duplicates that he makes, it'll hurt you, but all you have to do is attack him, the real Klungo, I mean, 3 times, and he'll go down. They also changed your running attack as well. It was just a kind of a forward roll before that was a little bit weak and dorky. Just like the other attack. What am I thinking of? The claw swipe. it's been changed a little bit so that there's less. You can move around a little bit more. It's not as stiff. So Klungo basically just says he'll be back and he'll take off. And ooh, yeah, he's kind of I don't know. He's weird. Klungo's weird. But we can grab some of the health that he dropped and head off in the direction that he did, which I believe is down the green tunnel here. And believe it or not, we're not going to be coming back to this area. Now, every time we wanted to go back to Spiral Mountain, we'll just skip straight from the area we're going to back to Spiral Mountain without ever going into that room again. So they built that entire huge room just for that one scene. Or sequence, I guess you could call it. So this is Jinjo Village. This is where the Jinjos, the people that you collect in the first game, actually live, believe it or not. Each different colored house is the house of a different colored Jinjo family. And these silos are going to be another very welcome addition to this game, which is quick warping. They have the ability to travel from hub to hub. You remember the cauldrons in the first game? To be able to travel within Grunty's lair? Well, this game has another version of that, only it's much better. That you can travel from level entrance to level entrance, basically without stopping. So if we were to go into these houses right now, they're actually completely empty. There are no Jinjos left. They're all gone. And, I don't know if you can see, but that gray house over there, that's right in the path of the digger tracks, and that house was crushed, and every Jinjo inside of that house was killed. If there's a sign over there that says "In memory of the Gray Jinjo family," presumably put up by this guy. This is King Jingling. He's the king of the Jinjos. Why he wasn't mentioned in the first game, I don't know. But basically, he's the one who's in charge of this area. But yeah, he's also a bit of a dude, I guess. And Banjo even comments on the fact that the kingdom is empty, but apparently the Jinjos were all scared away by the witches and their giant machine, and we have to go and get them back, just like in the first game. Fortunately, it's a little bit easier in this game than it was in the first game. We don't have to collect all 5 in a level to get a Jiggy. And this is something that also comes up later, is the fact that there is a kickball tournament going on between the Jinjos and the moles, which is Bottle's family and his crew, apparently. So, the Jinjos, the king will give us our first Jiggy, which you can also tell that the animation has changed for that. It just kind of swirls above our head instead of, you know, Banjo doing a little dance. Then we have to go see Jiggy Wiggy to talk to him about something. Yeah, I'm kind of with Kazooie here. The fact that none of this was mentioned in the first game is, well, it's all very tongue-in-cheek, really, and the fact that Kazooie makes fun of it, you know, that's kind of the attitude that this game has towards itself in a way. So, the way to actually get there is through Bottle's house. Bottle's house is directly opposite the king's palace, I guess you'd say. A one-room palace, but, yeah, whatever. So we leave. Notice that we're still in the cutscene, though. His strange pet thingy was cool, Kazooie, I agree. And then Banjo and Kazooie get stuck inside some sort of like negative space-time dimension as we switch over to the witches in their tower. And this is something else that this game has in common with Donkey Kong 64, is that the enemies have a gigantic laser cannon. Except that this laser cannon isn't necessarily meant to just destroy. It's meant to do something else. It looks about the same, but it works differently. That's Bob, the Big O Blaster, I believe is what they call it. And you notice that it goes from suck to blow, just like the Mega Maid 3000, or whatever, from Spaceballs. This game is full of those kinds of little cheeky references. If anything, it's even more cheeky than the first game. So Minjella and Blabelda built this machine to suck life force out of the lands below and use it to restore Grunty to full life. And you notice that they made Grunty stop rhyming as well, which takes away a little bit of her charm, honestly. So she just focuses on being cruel at this point. So somehow they're able to see that Jingling just gave us a Jiggy and they're just gonna blast him. Even though they technically don't actually blow him up, they just suck the life out of him, but yeah. So yeah, that room we just walked out of is being drained of all of its life. Which really doesn't make any sense because there's literally just the king inside of it, but whatever. Apparently the king had a lot of life force, so whatever the heck. Banjo and Kazooie are still stuck in that alternate time dimension because they're still not doing anything about it. And it conveniently fills out the circle path with grayscale and didn't go a step beyond it. So it's just reduced poor Jingling to a zombie and his pet to a smear on the couch. But that only netted them a third, or, well, no, I guess it's a quarter of the life force that they need. So Grunty, being greedy, immediately decides to blast the whole island instead of just part of it like they did here. And the charge will take so long that it will give us enough time to not only beat the entire game, but also beat the witches without any, well, without any sort of time constraint on our adventure whatsoever. Which is something, again, I thought was actually not true when I originally played this game. I thought that there was a time constraint, but there's not. So we can actually go back into the now zombified King's Palace. If you think I'm saying, you know, zombies, I'm not kidding. It literally just says zombified throne room. And you can actually just kind of hang out here. The king will hurt you if you run into him, or he will also attack you. And he'll also say cryptic things about stuff that happens later in the game. But there's really no reason to stay here because all you're going to do is lose health, and you can't beat him up. Even though he technically has no reason to actually hurt you, just because he's a zombie doesn't mean he suddenly turns evil. Oh well, whatever. So you can see there's a path over there with a little door between those two houses, but we can't actually reach it yet because we can't jump that high. So let's go ahead and head in here to Bottle's house. Head inside. So, turns out that Bottles not only had a house all to himself, but also has a loving family. This is his wife. So you can speed up most of the dialogue just by holding down A, and she actually has a Banjo-Tooie mug. So the whole part of this whole part of the game is Banjo-Kazooie sitcom style, trying to talk to Bottles' family without telling any of them the fact that he's dead. And for some reason, they've got a monster in their house, but it'll help us refill some of the health that we lost clowning around with King Jingling. This is Bottles' bedroom. He's got a picture of his wife above his bed. It's so cute. Yeah, this is, I mean, it's not a bad house. It's just kind of, I guess it's homey. This is their dining room. And down here, this actually splits off two different directions. We want to go to the right, but we're going to go to the left first because this kid has got something for us. So at some point in the past 2 years, Banjo-Kazooie met Bottles' family because they're all familiar with each other. You notice that he's playing with a Donkey Kong doll, and he also gives us one of his dad's inventions, the Amaze-A-Gaze glasses. These are going to be important later on in the game. They're not as you can actually skip them, but they are important. Basically, this is the sniper scope from Donkey Kong 64. You get it right off the game, right off the bat in this game. Pressing left and right on the C buttons, right to zoom in, left to zoom out, basically gives you a zoom. And oh my, what's this? It's a Jet Force Gemini poster. Interesting. The one thing about going first person in this game is that unlike the first game, this game has inverted controls. So, at least when you're in first person, so down is up and up is down. It's really annoying, but that's going to be interesting later. And oh yeah, this kid has got another Jet Force Gemini poster in his room. Let's talk to him. He's holding I believe that's a Phantom aircraft, but I could be wrong. That's just the military nerd in me coming out. I guess it's probably just meant to be a generic jet, but interestingly enough, it does have the UK Air Force, I guess it would be the Royal Air Force, symbols on it instead of anything like stars and stripes or anything like that. So he was saying that they were going to be playing a kickball tournament, but Bottles is the best on the team, and they're kind of waiting for him to start. Oh, that was weird. Model changed a little bit there, but if we came here before we went to the king, the kid would tell us about the passage but mention that it was blocked off. But since we went to Jingling first, he opened it up for us. And this also in turn opens up the world a little bit. Welcome to the Isle of Hags. This is the wooded hollow, and there's the temple of Jiggy Wiggy, who is probably one of the more annoying characters in this game, simply because he's the gatekeeper, not the keymaster. So we're going to have to go talk to him before we can do anything else, and you can see, here, another silo. So this will allow us to travel to and from Jinjo Village, basically unimpeded. So that's nice. We don't have to go all the way through Bottle's house anymore. Let's follow the digger tracks for a second, though. See, there's a baddie in here. We can go ahead and beat him up. He's on patrol. And there's a Jinjo. So you can see the number 1 of 8s down at the bottom. Here's the way that the Jinjos work in this game. The Jinjos are basically aggregated across the entire game. There are 9 different colors, and there are scaling numbers of each color in each level, or throughout the world, not in each level. Each level has a certain number of Jinjos in it, but the Jinjos in each level, color-wise, are actually randomized. So you have to collect all of the Jinjos of a certain color to be able to get a Jiggy. So for instance, those purple Jinjos, there's 8 of them in the game, and we have to collect all 8 before we actually get a Jiggy for getting them. I believe black has 9, is the one with the most, and the one with the least is white. There's only 1 white Jinjo in the game. So this up here, you can hear the music change. So this is a sign that we can read if we want to, and it'll tell you how many Jiggies it takes to open the door. Let's go ahead and take this guy down first of all, but let's go ahead and run up here to the temple. We'll talk to the doorman first. Yeah, so he's basically just a dude. And they gave a whole bunch of mysticism to the Jiggies in this game that wasn't in the first game. So, yeah, I don't know. Kind of iffy on it, but at least it, I don't know, it kind of makes the MacGuffins. I guess it's trying to both justify their existence within the world and also make fun of the justifications made in the worlds. Oh yeah, and this is a cutscene. I can't do anything here. So this is Jiggy Wiggy. Basically, he's the one that we have to give the Jiggies to be able to open up the rest of the world. Instead of like in the first game where you had to put the... Well, it's kind of like the first game where you have to put the pieces into a puzzle, only the pieces aren't the actual Jiggies. They're just pieces to a puzzle that Jiggy Wiggy just makes us open for some reason. Because he's a jerk. And it shows us the picture in the background is actually a part of the level that we're going to be going to. Yes, I know how to do this, Jiggy Wiggy. You don't have to be giving me a tutorial on this. Seriously? Okay, come on, whatever. So in the first game, you didn't have to actually physically put the puzzle together. You just had to jump on a podium and press a button, and all the pieces kind of magically jumped into the picture. In this game, you have to physically put the puzzle together, which gets towards the end of the game because you have to start rotating pieces and stuff like that. But it's never actually difficult. We can complete the challenge, and now he'll open the door for us in the most overly dramatic way possible that also manages to drop the frame rate once again. That's going to be a running gag through this game is frame rate drops. Because again, that's the one thing that the Xbox version has over this game, over this version in my opinion, is the fact that the frame rate is actually somewhat steady at 30 or whatever it is, instead of dropping down to like 15 or 10. And yes, this cutscene plays every time you have to open a level up. Which is why I don't like Jiggy Wiggy, because it's incredibly annoying and completely unskippable. Even though this is literally right next door, he still has to be overly dramatic and just blow the door open. And then it kind of calmly slides up into the ceiling. Yeah, we don't have enough Jiggies to be able to open the next level anyway. But before we go, let's take a look at this sign here. It is an information signpost, and we can read it by pressing B. And these signs actually have hints for levels within them. Each different signpost will be key to a different level. Depending on how many levels you open, different signposts will be available to read. Though which one actually has the secrets to the level we just opened on it, I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and head through the secret passage. I call it a secret passage, but there really isn't actually anything here. It's just more signs. And the signs tell you stuff that really don't really do anything, like saying on the roof of the Red Ginger House there's something up there. Witchy World is a thing. An egg container followed by jingling. Demo pan? But yeah, those signs, they're basically just there to give you little hints, but they're really not all that useful. A lot of signs in this game do some kind of the same thing. They'll give you hints towards an objective or an idea, but they won't actually give you any useful information. So let's go ahead and go to the first level. We're not going to be able to finish in this video, I don't think, but, well, let me see. How long have I been recording for? About 40 minutes. I'll go into the first level, but I won't actually do anything. We'll get that started in the next video. Welcome to Mayhem Temple. Or Mayahem Temple, I suppose, technically. And we're going to get this started in the next video. I will see you guys then.